Hi everyone. Thank you for coming tonight or today for Godwin. I'm really happy to welcome Godwin Louis tonight with me. Hi Godwin, how are you?
Hello, how you doing, Pauline?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good, good.
Yeah, maybe we can start with a few words talking about you. Like, can you present yourself to the people who are watching?
Yes, hey everyone. My name is Godwin Louis. I play the saxophone, the alto saxophone. I've been playing for almost 20, no, mm, I guess I've been playing for about 26 years now, the saxophone. And it's been a wonderful journey. I went to school for it, went to Berklee College of Music, and then I was fortunate to be selected as one of the members of the formerly known as the Thelonious Institute, now known as the Herbie Hancock Institute. And yeah, I've been playing that thing since that long, and I realized that July 1st will mark 10 years since I've moved back to New York from New Orleans. So I've been, I guess, a professional for 10 years. Uh, since, school. And yeah, that's been my journey. I've also been playing a lot of soprano saxophone, and recently picked up the soprano saxophone, which I'm having a lot of fun with. And yeah, so I guess that's the quick background of who I am. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you talked about Berkeley and the Thelonious Monk Institute. So I guess you had the opportunity to learn there from the best, like the biggest artists, and uh, who made the biggest impact on you?
And the Institute. I would say everyone did. The very first artist in residence we had was Steve Coleman. And before I knew Steve, I was aware of Steve Coleman's music.
Hmm.
I knew that it was challenging. There was a lot of odd meters and advanced harmony. But that week we spent with him ended up being life changing in a way because we saw that it was coming from a deeper place. And he's just an amazing teacher in terms of like he can explain everything and kind of painted a clear picture of exactly what he's doing. And it kind of, I guess, as the first artist we had in the band, because it's a band they select, kind of opened our mind to really experience true artistry. Someone that truly have their own voice, someone who someone who took tradition and elevated into their own thing. It's wonderful work of art. So I would say that was a that was a great thing for us. And followed by him was the great late Jimmy Heath. So that's complete opposite. And even that was life changing. But overall, I think what I learned is that um, the Monk Institute to me sort of gave us a better picture of an artist having your own voice. Because I would say over the course of the 2 years, we had maybe 20 artists in residence, and each one of them had their own voice. And sometimes
Hmm.
their message might contradict another artist. See what I'm saying? But in essence, what we learn is, that this music is so personal, especially when we're talking about improvisation, that it's a personal quest. And that is why someone's message may differ from another one. And it's completely fine as long as you can find your voice, I think that works for you, and you can relate that message to others. That's sort of what I picked up from it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So 2 weeks ago, we I did the Syos live with Dana
With
Stephens,
Dana, I
and
saw that. Yeah,
yeah,
I was listening to Dana and I said, man, do we have a similar background? All these heroes were my heroes, and the names that he mentioned, it would be minus the geographical things, like he's from the Bay Area, so that would be the difference. But in terms of, we share a lot of heroes in common and teachers. Yeah,
yeah, and we talked a lot about finding your own voice and things like that. So
right. Yeah,
yeah, so so you were born in New York, but soon you moved to Haiti, right? So I was
right.
wondering was it was like to growing up there, and uh, what was your childhood about, and how did you
About
start the music? Yeah.
right, right. So, interestingly, my father, who passed away 2 years ago, was a pastor. He had a church and a mission, a school, medical clinic, an orphanage, pretty much, a lot of things in Haiti and his land of birth. So, around when I was 9, at the time, he sort of decided to, for political reasons in Haiti, to like be there more, to have his presence there. And so that I moved to Haiti then. I was 9. Back then I was playing the piano, and that's actually where I picked up the alto saxophone. But the very first saxophone, which is here, oh, this is the very first saxophone, 1 second, that I've played.
Okay.
It's a C melody, and I see it in the corner.
Oh,
I
you
still
you
have it
started you
on a
started
C
with the
melody.
C melody. Wow.
Yes, yeah, it's right here. So 1 second, let me get it. I started playing this thing. Wow, it's right here. So I keep it. It doesn't work, but this is my very first saxophone right here.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to put
Wow.
this on Instagram today. Take a picture. This is the
Yeah.
instrument I learned from. So yeah, in 1994, which is a long time ago. And yeah, this was my very first saxophone. It doesn't really play anymore, but my goal is to get it to sort of play. I think it's an old King, maybe. I don't know, something from Elkhart. So it's definitely a U.S. horn. And so it was sort of when we moved there, it was such a culture shock, different culture, and
Mhm.
we were young. And one of the compromise was what the instrument I always wanted to play, which was the saxophone. Back then, I saw it in a lot of cartoons and TV
Mhm.
shows, and I always said, I want to play this instrument. And so my father gave me that instrument, and I've been kind of playing it ever since. So big shout out to the maestro that taught me, who passed away last year also. His name was Lieutenant Jean. And he was a fantastic teacher that taught music all over the island. And that was sort of like during my short time there, maybe 2.5 years, I, got to hear a lot of street bands and play in different churches and different groups. And that's sort of like a major part of, I don't know, my musical identity, the time I spent
Mm.
there. I left it for a while because once I came back, I think at the age of 12, 13, I never went back to Haiti until I was about 25, around the earthquake. So there was like a detachment from that. And New
Mhm.
Orleans was sort of like the mediator in terms of bringing that interest back because my time in New Orleans, those 2 years were a reflection, I felt like, of my earlier times in Haiti because of the similarity in the culture and
Mhm.
everything like that. So it kind of started this quest and this project, this whole global uniting cultures together because I think, especially in this continent, there are a lot of similarities that serve the same musical purpose that I think a lot of us bypass because of socioeconomic reasons,
Hmm.
but it's still the same thing. Like the difference between New Orleans and Port-au-Prince are very slim. There's a lot of cultural similarities, and the same thing goes to Brazil, to Salvador, they Bahia. The same thing goes to Cuba, especially the southern region. There's a lot of similarities, and so which is part of my identity to show
Hmm.
those similarities and the new world, that connection. Yeah. So
Okay. So yeah, I'm curious. So how long did you play on the C melody before switching to the
switching to
alto?
alto. I think I played the C melody for about maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I
Okay.
remember someone gifted me. I'm still looking for that horn, but I want to really say that it was a Mark 6 or maybe a super balanced action. It was an amazing vintage alto that someone bought from Indiana, like one of the missions in Haiti, and that circle, and like the church circle. There's always like a lot of mission coming to help people be saved or
Mm.
anything like that. So they bought an alto. Someone like one of the pastors bought an alto saxophone at the time. I left it there when I came back. This horn I retrieved way later. I think my mother went there. I said, please bring that horn. I don't care what you have to do, bring it. Yeah, I think I started playing alto maybe 2 months later, and I also learned the saxophone, believe it or not, in 1 week. I already knew how to play piano, and I already knew basic music theory. I knew how to read, basic, I guess, reading. And so I told the maestro now, I said, just teach me all the notes, the chromatic scale, and I'll figure out the rest, which he wasn't
Hmm.
really too fond of because I took away, his income. But anyway, we ended up, working together because he was a music teacher at my father's school. And so, yeah, I started, I would say, playing professionally in terms of like the local bands, maybe in 2, 3 months by ear. And then once I moved back to the US, to Bridgeport, Connecticut, I started playing in after school bands with my uncles, a professional guitarist by the name of Robert Fleur and his friend Gabriel, and a lot of different, local groups and jazz bands in the area. So I would say it was like kind of like a quick um, turnaround in terms of the time I started playing the instrument and the time I started, sharing with other people.
Okay. And then you decided to stick with the alto saxophone for the rest of the time.
Yeah, I've always thought that I don't know, the alto saxophone is my voice. I always felt like whenever I picked up the tenor, which I did at Berklee for like a year,
Hmm.
maybe my second semester, I always thought that I didn't really have a true identity on tenor. When I pick up the tenor, it's like, oh, Joe Henderson, John Coltrane, Stan Getz, blah blah blah. Like I hear different
Hmm.
identities. Ben Webster here, this person there, but with the alto, I feel like I'm more even technically proficient on the horn because I spend a lot more time with it, and yeah, I feel a lot more comfortable too on alto, and I think that's kind of why I stuck with alto and soprano too. When I play soprano, like a lot of times I love that instrument. I kind of hear something else. It brings me to my childhood in a way. The music I heard in Haiti, I feel like the soprano reminds me of that. The timbre, the
Hmm.
sound, those marching band sound. Yeah.
Okay. So how would you describe your own voice on the
As a,
alto?
How would I describe my own voice? I would say that it would be maybe an interplay between spirituality, rhythm, and harmony, and sort of culture and in terms of cultural, in terms of my background and the places I've been and my interests, if I may. That I think that's what I hear when I pick up the instrument. I hear the rhythm of the ancestors, the sounds of, Haiti, the sounds of liberty, the sounds of West and Central Africa. And I also hear that connection with the higher power. Given that, my first professional settings were in church, we're playing in different churches, special guests in here and there
Hmm.
at a very young age. So I kind of still hear that sound connecting with people via one note. And another similarity to, I was shocked that Dana said that name. I watched his interview to see. There's a great maestro by the name of Kirk Whalum that he mentioned, um, that I feel like is able to relate to people not based on technique but on sound. Like he plays one note and you kind of see your history and pictures and everything out of that. So I feel like I can really relate to that, and I feel like that's also part of my voice, the ability to share a message with people from a note to note standpoint, which was a major part of my upbringing. And I remember, for instance, when I was a student at Berklee, so of course I'm learning all these technical things in harmony, but then I would go back home to Bridgeport, Connecticut to play at church, and I can tell it became too technical, and I'm playing all these
Hmm.
things, and the people are kind of like, okay, so that's what you're learning in college now. We remember when you were 14, 15, and we can relate to the notes. And
Hmm.
I was like, I didn't care for that. I was like, oh, you guys, at the time, well, you guys, you don't hear these things. You wouldn't know these things. But, you know, but, one day, you'll understand one
Hmm.
day. And I think, yeah, so I would say that's sort of, in essence, that's the sound I hear. That's my voice. That's what I'd like to explore more. Of course, I'm still looking for that. But those are what triggers or what inspires my voice as a saxophonist.
Interesting. So can we hear it a little?
Okay, well, I have two horns. I have my sopranino here, which I've been playing for. I feel like something might be wrong with it. It's supposed to be open like that. Yeah, that's what it is. I knew something was off. Okay, let's play some notes. Um, the soprano saxophone.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't hear a lot of soprano saxophone. It's
Yeah, exactly. So this is I've been really, really digging it. I've been really I think there's something special about that horn. When I first picked it up, I was using the stock mouthpiece it came with, and so really I think the South mouthpiece brings out something, in it that's really special. The tuning is definitely better for me, and so yeah, big shout out
yeah,
to you and Syos.
tuning seems great because yeah, usually on soprano it's complicated and it's crazy how you can still get a dark sound on the soprano. Usually it's
Right.
like really nasal,
Really,
so it's
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I think yeah, which is why I think I fell in love with it. I said, wow, once I tried the mouthpiece that was sent, I said, wow, there's something really cool. The other mouthpieces that I tried are all, I think, a little bit too small, which I think if
Mm-hmm.
one plays the soprano, you would need access to try different customized mouth, and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
anyone that will do that except for actually Syos. So I think this
Yeah,
is
if you
an
play
amazing thing.
soprano, you can
Yeah,
ask
there's
us.
no way. Yeah, you can ask for something bigger, and this mouthpiece is like a little bigger, which leaves a lot more room for those different timbre, darkness, and leaves the possibilities open. You know, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so actually everything is possible. That's nice.
everything is possible, indeed. Yes.
Yeah, so we have Sebastian who says, "Man, what an incredible voice. I want to be like you when I grow up."
Thank you, Sebastian. That means a lot, man. Wow, thank you very much. Still growing, but I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that, and yeah, thank you, Sebastian.
Yeah, we also
And
have Roland saying, "Love your son, Godwin." And hi,
thank
Roland.
you.
Nice to
Hi, everyone.
see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Yeah, it's a beautiful horn. Yeah, really, it's and big shout out to the great Sherman Herbie. This is his saxophone. I was subbing for him in the Jazz at Lincoln Center big band, and he gave me his soprano to use for some of the parts. That's what I had to use, and I really fell in love with it, and I think I can kind of bring it to gigs, you know, and
Yeah, so
start
actually
exploring that.
you
Yeah.
yeah, so you actually did a small tour just a few days ago. No,
Yeah,
it's
few days
how
ago,
was
yeah,
it?
it
Yeah.
was amazing. That experience, it taught me, first of all, I need to work on my doubles, then look for a clarinet and a flute teacher, because
Oh.
those are not really my thing. My focus is mainly on the alto horn and soprano, tenor, baritone. I played a lot of baritone in high school, actually, because I was a bigger guy and our band was limited. So it's like, nope, baritone. So I love that instrument. I haven't played it since then, really, since high school. But but the tour was amazing. It was for the 100th year anniversary of the race massacre, the unfortunate race massacre known as Black Wall Street in
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, that occurred in 1921. Very sad and unfortunate uh, part of our history here. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it was to commemorate that. So Wynton Marsalis wrote a suite for choir, symphony orchestra, and the big band, and it includes soprano saxophone. It's called All Rise, and it's all over the web on Spotify and YouTube. So it's incredible music actually, and it was quite the experience. So I'm definitely grateful for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and for playing, how was it to play like with such a big orchestra after months of just not playing? So.
That's true. It's very true. It was quite the experience. At first, I noticed that and I was subbing for the lead chair. I guess it's not necessarily a traditional lead chair in terms of like the lead chair is always leading small parts, but there are parts that it's actually really leading, especially the sopranino. And the opening statement is on sopranino, kind of leading
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I kind of it brought everything back, to pre-pandemic, sort of like sound, make sure it's cutting, make sure sound is round, the singing quality, when to cut off the notes, which is something that we don't necessarily think about, in small ensemble settings. The duration of notes, seeing a half note,
Mm-hmm.
cutting that a little shorter or extending it longer. Just overall, those things were sort of some of the things that I was reminded of during that whole week. Yeah. So, yeah, that was quite the experience. Quite the experience.
Okay, we have a question from Jordan. Hi, Jordan. So who have you been listening to these days? Any players groups you are particularly
Particularly excited
excited
about.
about?
Hmm. I've been checking out a lot of. I'm always working on my writing, and I'm currently working on um, the follow-up album to Global. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of listening to a lot of different people. I first, during the pandemic, I must note, I spent a lot of times in Africa. So whenever I'm there, I'm always thinking of, first of all, how much the experiences, the rhythms, the music I hear, and how I can naturally apply that to my music and my voice because I hear that music naturally. So one of the name that I discovered there is a singer-songwriter and composer by the name of Saxophone. He's from Benin Republic, country in West Africa next to Nigeria and Togo and south, I guess, of Niger. So I've been checking out a lot of his music and trying to kind of write a symphonic piece based on that. And so I've been listening to a lot of Schoenberg for orchestration, particularly Verlachnacht. I don't know if people know that. It's
Mm-hmm.
so one of his, I guess, pre-atonal. You can hear the later influences of the things he was up to.
Mm-hmm.
It's a string quartet, and it's kind of incredible music. And this was a free giveaway for a lot of people that are into composing and counterpoint. It's amazing in terms of the context that he was writing in, and I feel like you can write that. You can take some of these approaches and use it in any genre, non-stylistic, and which is something I picked up from the great Roger Dickerson when I lived in New Orleans, who's an amazing composer, and we studied non-stylistic counterpoint. And this is one of the things that I would always kind of analyze that period of Schoenberg to apply it to anything. So I've been checking out that. Let's see who else. I'm always checking out the great. I think it's obvious I've at least made that known. Great Brazilian composer by the name of Hermedo Pascoal. I think his music describes the American continent and all of its influences from the native to the European connection and to the African connection. To me, that's what describes this continent. And I think a lot of people don't look at the American continent kind of as a whole, except for when you're outside of the US. If you're in Europe or Africa, you hear people say things like, you North Americans, you're Americans as in the continent, but here in the continent, we don't think of it like that. And so these
Mm-hmm.
are all the common grounds I'm always looking for that actually we have a continental sound. So I'm checking them out. I'm checking out a lot of Ben Webster. because I feel like, again, going back to my childhood in terms of relating to people with notes, just one note and expression and this kind of forward motion aspect to his playing and the harmony of his time. I don't. It always brings me back. I'm checking him out. Let's see who else. If I wasn't on my phone, I would pull out my playlist. I think
Yeah.
that's the best way to see who you're checking out. Anyone else I'm missing? Yeah, just so pretty much preparing for things to come. All my
Hmm.
peers, whenever they release things, all the great guys of today, I always make it an point on weekends to check out everything that's coming out that are present. So yeah, so that's for the most part the yeah what I'm checking out. Um, yeah.
Okay. We have another question from Kevin. He
hmm
asks, can you describe your development as an improviser and what in particular assisted you the most?
my development as an improviser. Describe my development. Okay, so I would say describe okay. So my very first influence was the great Charlie Parker when I was, I think, about the age of 12. Just moved to Bridgeport, Connecticut. My uncle, by the name of Robert St. Fleur, was a guitarist, and he said, "You need to check out Charlie Parker. He has the
Hmm.
language, the technique, and this is exactly what you need at this age. Listen to your uncle." What did I do? Listen to my uncle, check out Charlie Parker, particularly the tune White Christmas with Dizzy, live at, where is that live at? Maybe Macy Hall. But yeah, where they play da 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 da, and I knew the melody, and to me it was life changing because I saw someone took I understood the context that he was improvising in terms of this very inside, I guess that's the terminology we use today, approach to a melody where it made sense, but it wasn't the notes of the melodies that I was used to when I tried to improvise in church. So I would say it went from there to being very curious and checking out, people like Cannonball Adderley, and then from there, finally, I think my last year in high school, I was fortunate to study with an amazing saxophonist by the name of Herb Wilson from Connecticut, who also changed my life. And he introduced me to all the players, all the modern guys, the history of the saxophone, people like Dean Curtis, people that I wouldn't check out. And so his whole thing was knowing the history of the saxophone. So in my quest for the history of the saxophone when I ended up at Berklee, Lee Konitz became my guy. I
Hmm.
really navigated towards that harmonic sound, that kind of Lee Konitz voice leading, which eventually led me to Monk. And so then I started thinking like that in terms of improvisation, harmony, and voice leading. And from there, I started studying with the great Eddie Tomasi, who's sort of like the main, to me at Berklee, sort of his focus is on harmony and how to deal with chord changes. So I think that was another crucial step to my development as an improviser, understanding harmony and understanding how to navigate and play chord changes. So then after that was my time with the great Hal Crook, like everyone else, who's then um, ideas were beyond time and changes. Sure, all this history, but how can you put it all together and be present, which was the same message that we got from the great Terence Blanchard too. So I think from there went there to that whole notion of conscious, um, modern, present. And then from there, like I told you, New Orleans kind of started this whole thing, reminded me of my childhood, and I decided to investigate that whole quest, spending a lot of time in Haiti and in Africa. I feel like that added something to my development as an improviser. And also in an interview, I had the opportunity through the great Amelia Lyons to have a conversation with the great Sonny Rollins, who reminded me in my brief, playing for him that don't forget, young man, rhythm is king. And I was, thought that, and I felt like I was conscious then in terms of development of rhythm is king. And I had a brief experience with the great Ornette Coleman, who's one of my heroes, and spending maybe visiting him 2 or 3 times, and each time I learned something from him, and I felt like all of those added something to my development as an improviser. So I would say, yeah, it came from there to where I'm at today, which is kind of like composer based, being very present and using some compositional skills and not playing. So I guess on the spot improvisation, I would say that's where I am now, kind of based on the composition and an extension of composition. That's what I think of now whenever I'm improvising. I'm always thinking um, that I am an extension of whatever the composer's intents are, based on my experience, whatever it means to me. So that would be the brief history of my development as an improviser, and some of the tools and devices that have assisted me. Um, Hope I answered that. Yes, and if you have more questions about that, you know where to find me on social media and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, if you have also other question for Godwin, you can ask them on the chat. So yeah, Kevin says thanks,
Oh,
appreciate the
thank
answer.
you, Kevin. So I guess the main point is, yes, studying, soaking it all in. That's really in essence what it is to, let who you are and your experiences and what you hear in your head dictate where you should go as an improviser. Be willing to listen to some of the masters and where they're coming from, and take everything in objectively, and then apply where it seems like it fits.
Yeah. So yeah, as everyone, I think you have learned a lot from others, but now you are also an educator yourself. Now you are really much involved in humanitarian work. So can
Right.
you tell us more about the foundation you have?
Yes. Yes. So over the years, I guess starting in 2010, there was a big earthquake in Haiti. Everyone heard
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a lot of calls, aren't you of Haitian descent? Like what? I said, yep, 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 yep. It's unfortunate. And I tried my best to explain the dynamic of the country, socially, politically, how things work there, the thinking. Um, and then the next year, there was a hurricane that did equally as
Mm.
bad. But the thing is, people are still thinking about, oh, it's the earthquake. We sent billions of dollars that really didn't make it there.
Mm-hmm.
But we're moving on now. This is 2011. 2012, there was another earthquake. So I mean, another hurricane. So what happens is,
Mm-hmm.
because of the poor infrastructure of Haiti, every time anything has like hurricanes, anything like that, it really affects the people. But because the earthquake was so big, I've kind of felt like, oh, people kind of forget how much these things affect the country, that it's still an ongoing thing. As opposed to when we see it in the media, we're like, oh my God, Haiti again. We sent billions of dollars. Again, that didn't really make it there. And so
Mm-hmm.
in 2016, they had a terrible hurricane that pretty much wiped out the already poor infrastructure of the southern part of Haiti. So a group of us got together and sort of decided, okay, what we need to do is bring awareness, and as musicians and artists, what we can do is bring some of the people from this scene, from our scene there to have an experience and an exchange. So what we would do is we would serve the people, educate, bring instruments, bring reeds, bring mafis, kind of donation based, and share it, bring it to different parts of the island, And since music was always an important tool of Haitian history, from their independence to all their amazing history of their independence, music was always a tool. So we figured one of the things that we can do as people of Haitian descent is to bring that there, multidisciplinary arts, music, teaching, and experience
Mm-hmm.
for those people to come and understand and help that way. And we've extended that to other places and other countries, and that's the goal. Ideally, is to help those that are unfortunate. So that's sort of how it started. Um, yeah, with this whole experience IT thing was sort of my way to give back to the country that gave me the gift of playing the saxophone and the
Mm-hmm.
country of my parents. You see what I'm saying? I learned how to play there, and I figured that's a major part of me as a musician and an artist, and that was my way of giving back. And yeah, so we're gonna continue that again. So yeah, every year we go there. We collect instruments. So those of you that have like a clarinet that's functioning and
Mm-hmm.
that's not put into use, some extra reeds laying around, you just give it to us and we bring it there, and people put it to use.
Yeah, so I guess with the COVID, it hasn't been easy too, no? So do you have
Absolutely.
plans for going back
Yeah.
there soon, or?
Yeah, we have plans. Normally it's every December, so I guess we'll see how things work. But even then, the work continues. I know we just sent some instruments out there. We were able to ship, trumpet, saxophone, clarinet, drum set, things like that. We're still able to, do
Mm-hmm.
what we can, even though we're not there. We have an amazing team on the ground there too that are ready, that are teaching each other, because the notion is for it to be self-sustaining, where they can help them, the Haitians can help themselves, at least with music and music education, because that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that will absolutely help elevate the country, self-sustain, because at the end of the day, no one, is required to care for you and yourself. You see what I'm saying? So sure, some people might be willing to help, but at the end of the day, we all are going through our own personal things. So if we can teach one or guide people to be self-sustained, that's to me part of the solution, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know if you need more mouthpieces to send there. We would be happy to give some to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you again for that's it's been amazing. It's been amazing. I see a lot of I'll share some. There's a guy that sent me a video. And so his
Oh yeah, I
bright
would be
red
happy to see
mouthpiece.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To find that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, yep, yep.
Do you have plans for a new album after the Global was released in 2019, right?
Right. Yes, I do. I'm currently working on the music for this new album, which is kind of based on that same idea, that connecting. It's still that global project. I've been doing a lot of transcription. I'm working backwards now. I'm working based on themes and ideas. I'm
Mm-hmm.
writing based on different themes and ideas and connections and stories and fables. So I have that set out, and so it's just a matter of, I guess, recording and getting the right group to see the concept, to play it, to hear it, and I'm also waiting for the world to open too quite a bit before I release something. I think that way it can really do what it's supposed to do. in terms of, we're able to
Mm-hmm.
travel and play it all over the world for more
Yeah.
people here, and the projects that will come out of it that are beyond music.
Mm-hmm.
From a humanitarian standpoint too, I have a lot of ideas that I want to use this album to get to. You know? So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just a question we have asked to everyone, but yeah. So how was your 2020 years? Like, how was it for you? Like the old COVID crisis, and what did
Right.
you learn from it, or how was it?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I got used to it in a way. I saw the bright side of it. I felt like it allowed, I guess it allowed me to be home. 2019 was an extremely busy year. I was barely
Mm-hmm.
home. So this time, I'm laughing because I was still able to travel a lot, and I was traveling a lot still. I kind of used the time to work on a lot of what I don't know what some might consider weaknesses, to brush up on certain history, certain facts that I would like. I've read a lot of books. I brush up on um, a lot of things as a musician and as a human being, a citizen of the world. I was able to spend a lot of time. I'd say I spent pretty much half of it in West Africa. And Africa was pretty open. I mean, I went there in November
Mm-hmm.
for I think 7 or 8 weeks, 7 weeks, and things were pretty much open. COVID was
Mm-hmm.
non-existent, and I was kind of teaching every day because a lot of guys found out I was there. It was like, man, please teach us. Go there, and I would do it. Yes, sure, I'm gonna come there. So to me, it was eye-opening, and it was quite the experience because I was fortunate to do that. And I think that it was a tough year, for the world, for the world's economy, but I'm a firm believer that we're getting there to the other side. And so, those of you that had a tough time, hang in there. The French saying, après la pluie, le beau temps, right? Isn't that the saying?
Yes,
So,
yes.
so good times are ahead. Good times are ahead. But in essence, that was how my year was spent during the pandemic. I said, how can I maximize on this time? What are some of the
Mm-hmm.
projects I've been working on? Because as a musician, we always like, oh, I don't have enough. If I had time, I would do this and that. I would write this. I would do this, and I read all
Yeah.
the books in the world. So the first month, I was kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna catch up on sleep. Second month, I thought I was going to be watching a lot of TV, but I realized that's really not me. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
bring myself to catch up on whatever the Netflix du jour was. I would find that, oh man, you're wasting your time. You need to practice. So I did that. Practice for 3 months. And then after that, I was like, okay, so then what should I do? So I just kind of mapped out, okay, do this, do that, do this. Oh, you can travel now. So go there, do this, do that, change your scenery, go home, visit your mother, do the, things like that. So I was able to maximize on my time and um, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so you talked about practicing. So do you have a practice routine you want to share with us?
Yeah, so with practicing during the pandemic, right? I was, let's see, in the beginning of the pandemic, I'm a big fan of sort of improvising on the spot. And I remember one time, I don't remember where I was, and it could have been in Europe, maybe in Italy, I want to say. I was at a festival, and Chris Potter was also there. And I remember great Chris Potter. I remember hearing him practicing a tune It was a standard, just a simple standard. And being able to fit everything in there in terms of like long tones, technical studies,
Mhm.
skill, and one tune. I remember going to sound check, hearing him, oh, okay, he's playing all the things you are. Cool, cool, cool. After soundtrack come back and I can hear the harmony, but then he's working on groups and cells and blah blah. So I go to my okay, let me go eat. And then I come back, oh, now he's in 7/4 and he's working on this and that. So I thought that was a great tool that I've considered before. And so during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of things like that. And I was also, as an educator, trying to come out with different exercises that will get one going. Another master, the great Mark Turner. I remember recording with an amazing trumpet player by the name of Jason Palmer, featuring Mark Turner. This would have been like maybe 2013. And I remember he flew straight from Portugal for the recording session. So when we arrived, he was already there with his suitcase. And I noticed he was doing certain warm ups that kind of, because with the instrument, it's physical. I can tell that the purpose, those warm ups kind of led to ways that he can be ready to play.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if he's tired, but it will get his chops going. And so I kind of developed some of those where I can get to sound check, do some things that will open up the instrument. And for those, you would have to contact me for the details. So it's things like that. Warm up exercises that's very important for the saxophonist. Sometimes when we go to play, we don't have enough time or we didn't practice that day. There are certain things that we can do to kind of open up not only the fingers but the chops, because I think the saxophone is a balance of the two. Sometimes my fingers might be in order, but the chops is not
Mhm.
cooperating with the finger, or the mind is not free to fully express those ideas. So it's a mixture of both. But to me, the best area is when all three are not cooperating and you still have to create. I love that because to me, that's where true improvisation comes. Because it's like, well, this is not cooperating. I have a lot in my mind. I'm not thinking about it, but you have to be present because people are paying or whatever to see you. So yeah, practicing. That's in essence, that's
That's the key.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. Can we hear some alto?
Yeah, I have my alto here. I figured you would want to hear something. I've been using a lot of people have seen me with my special orange, which I call it, but I've been using the blue one. Uh, I would say throughout the pandemic, there's something about it that is special to me. So here's something, and it's funny because you're in the show, everyone can see and hear you is blue as well. So yeah, it's a little alto. Um, Blue. That one is blue.
So you're playing the blue full time now? You
I'm playing the blue full time. You know, I have some others I might explore. I felt like next last week kind of opened my mind, like listening to the way I lead the section.
hmm
There's this special red one, if you remember, that I originally chose. I think I still have it. I'm kind of
Yeah,
curious
in
how that would
Marseille.
sound
Yeah.
3 years later. I'm curious. I
hmm
need to find it, and because it doesn't have the stairs, I'm curious to see how. Because I'm hearing something, especially after last week. I'm hearing something, so I want to see what red has to offer. And that's the great thing with Syos. Honestly, um, there's these options, especially as sax players. A lot of times we hear certain things in our head, and I always feel like there's these mouthpieces will kind of enable you to find something to what you're hearing. So a lot of times, those of you that order one, and Pauline did not tell me to say this. This is true, honestly. Maybe you need three. Each saxophonist should have three mouthpieces to work with. So if you have one, you need two
Three
more.
mouthpieces from Syos.
Exactly, especially from Syos to work with, and then they're like, oh, okay, this season, because we're seasonal, and I think
hmm
this is why whenever it's the fall, I always notice that I need a new setup, and it's
hmm
every fall. I feel like I always kind of switching between like, oh, should I go blue now? And the summer's coming. I'm interested to see what red has to offer. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let me know, and if you want to work on something new, we can do that too.
absolutely, yeah, that'd be great, be great. But we'll see. I'm loving my blue friend. I'm loving my blue friend. And just the possibilities, of having the top three. Um, yeah, and I think again that's something that sax players should think about if that's something that they hear, if their
hmm
sound is seasonal, people that are specific and know exactly what they hear, and that's fine,
hmm
But for me, I'm open to change. I'm open to exploring, especially with sound and timbre and things like that. So yeah.
So we will have a Godwin Louis summer mouthpiece and a Godwin Louis winter mouthpiece.
Aha, voila, yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be amazing. Definitely be a great thing. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have anything to add? A new project, new things you want to talk about before we leave?
I would say look out for this new project, Global to the Inception. And I would say on a personal note to everyone, we went through a very different, very tough year. And, you know, if you watching this, we made it, to the other side. Um, you know, give it up for um, that. We should be definitely grateful for that, and we should also take time, I guess, to remember those that have left us and still left their amazing, humanity for us, and we're gonna be fine together. We'll be fine together, and I think that we have beautiful things, coming ahead in general. And so, stay positive, greet your neighbor. It's okay to say hi to your neighbor, and be good and be kind, and play some good music, right? Practice, and yeah, that's what I would like to add.
Yeah, thank you. That's yeah, we need to stay positive and be kind. That's a nice things to do.
Absolutely, indeed, indeed.
Thank you very much for taking the time to sharing this time with us, and it was really nice to have you. And have a good day, have a good night, and thank you for all watching. And see you soon.
See
Bye
you
bye.
soon. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Pauline. Thank
Godwin.
you. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day and night. Good night for you. Good
Yes.
afternoon. Good morning for those that are watching in the morning. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.